Hello, everybody. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is So I'm Watching The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Season 5, Episode 8, The Princess and the Plea.
Sure.
Yeah. Weird penultimate episode.
I liked it. I enjoyed it.
It was fine.
Is it my favorite episode I've seen this season? Absolutely not. But I felt like we were getting back to the bones a little bit of the show.
I agree, but...
Timing, placement, in the episode order, I am confusion.
I am also confusion. And also, I think this just didn't feel like the second to last episode of
not
the show.
At all.
And I'm also, we're going to get this out of the way first because I'm afraid that Rachel might actually start crying. Abe is having like a crisis. Like, you can't say it's midlife. He says he's turned 64 and he's having like a crisis where he doesn't. And so he's like at dinner with Gabe and a couple of the other men. And he like doesn't understand really like his place in the world anymore. And they are all kind of agreeing about that. Which is like nice. It's a lovely conversation. And then he starts talking about how much he loves Midge and like respects her and didn't understand how she could have made it out of her divorce with Joel stronger than before, which made him decide that he just never knew her as a person to begin with.
Yeah, he said that I thought she would, after her saber tooth, which was Joel leaving her out of nowhere.
Which also, that was like a very mutual decision after she found out about the affair.
Yeah.
She was like, we are getting divorced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Abe was saying...
I think he asked for the divorce first.
Yeah, okay, I think it was all driven by him. But Abe was like, I thought she would emerge a new person, and really, I think this is just who she was all along.
And it's just
dads. I don't think that there are any dads watching this. Douglas absolutely is not watching this.
Yeah. Neither is Keith. Don't worry about it.
I need you guys to stop waiting until the end of your life to tell your daughters,
dude,
that you are so proud of them and that you are impressed by them, because you are the reason why we're like this. Like,
because he also, that's the other thing he said. He was like, I don't know where she got that from. And I was like, Abe, it was obviously from you.
Yeah.
She's the way, I mean, she is a lot like Rose, but she has that tenacity and that like, go get 'em drive and like the humor and the like intelligence to make the humor actually land. She got all of that from Abe. And it's like not being able to recognize yourself in your child is sort of insane.
Yep. And to call back what we were talking about this last week with Kristen Scott Thomas or whatever her name is from Fleabag, when she was talking about women being born with pain inside of them and men needing to create pain.
Yeah.
And it is very this, especially because of the time period that Midge was raised in. Yeah. I mean, the pain point is so high and the expectations are so high, and she was still able to carve out this life for herself.
Yeah.
But no one should be surprised, because that's just who Midge is. But given that those are her parents, she had no choice but to be that.
Well, and the other thing too is like the Weissmans were very like upwardly mobile and he was a professor and Rose came from money and they, had these high expectations. They sent her to Bryn Mawr where she presumably didn't do poorly.
No, she majored in Russian literature or something like that.
I mean, that's useless, but
but I mean, who voluntarily chooses to major in Russian literature?
Course. And so that's the kind of thing for me where I'm just like, I don't know how you didn't expect her to be like this,
but they never do though. And that's the thing. And it's like,
because he talks about Noah, he's like, I put all of my effort into Noah because I knew that he could be something great, and meanwhile I didn't even think about my daughter. I mean, it's just like this episode, that scene of this episode was curated for the both of us specifically with daddy issues.
Literally, when my youngest brother walked away from college without graduating, and I got stuck one day when he was screaming at Christopher and was like, if I had given you one more no and your sister one more yes, I would have to pay to go see her at the fucking movie theater. And I'm like, yay! I'm so validated, but you are 6 years too late.
Way too late!
What am I supposed to do with this? And so it's just, and then another thing too, it's all these men talking about it and having these conversations, which is beautiful. You're waiting too long to have these conversations. And I feel like this is so common with men at that age where they are having to reckon with their own mortality. And which is
morality.
Yeah. And so it's like, I love that, but it needs to happen sooner.
Way sooner.
And also you need to be able to realize how strong your daughter is without the relation of it to a man.
100%.
Because she did so well in college. She did so well keeping everything together. Yeah. And it wasn't until a man shook up her life for you to kind of go, oh, wow. Because same thing happened to me. It wasn't until I had this first of the really horrible things male-wise to happen to me. And everyone kind of went, oh, okay. So she is like a person. Got it.
Like a whole person.
Yeah. She's not like this flighty idiot who's dripping in sequins and just boobs and hair. Like,
I can be boobs and hair and a whole person.
Yeah. And it really hit. It hit.
Because the other thing too that I found so interesting about it is that he fully with words acknowledged that Noah could not have handled what Midge has been through.
No.
Which is true. And like, yeah, he has a really good job with the CIA or whatever, and that's fantastic. But like, Noah's life has not been difficult, and Midge's life, just by the chance of her being a girl, has been more difficult.
Exactly, which is the disservice that the patriarchy does to our boys and men as well.
And I also, in addition to that, do think that it is interesting that I don't know even that Midge necessarily needs this validation from Abe, which I think is why he's having this conversation with 3 other men, like his peers. But what I find interesting is that I think she would accept it, but like, in my opinion, reading her character these 5 seasons, she and Abe have a very loving relationship. They love each other, and like, he does think she's an interesting person, but it's like he never saw the full picture of her.
Correct.
Until he is seeing it now. And it's also, I think also what's super interesting about it is that it's because of what he's seeing in Esther.
Yes.
That makes him think these things about Midge finally, 30 years later, because it's like, this actually really springboarded nicely off of last week's episode, because we start the episode with Midge and Joel in like a parent-teacher conference with Mrs. Moyers, but it's not about Ethan, it's about Abe and how he's not allowed on the premises anymore because he keeps coming back. And so I think that, like, finding out that Ethan is not gifted and that Esther might be really flipped his whole like mindset on its head. And so he's like, well, if Esther is the gifted one, what would have happened? And he literally says that too. What would have happened if I gave the attention I gave to Noah to Midge instead? And like, and I'm an only child, so I don't actually have brothers to compare that to. Yeah. But it is very interesting, and it does make you think, like, yeah, what would my life be like if my dad knew I was an entire person, like a whole real person? Yeah. Because he does not make any strides to understand that. Yeah,
so. and I also think that this is very common with grandparents with the grandchildren, because they can they're weirdly divorced from the child rearing process. So they can kind of look at them rather in a fuller picture rather than fragments.
It's like they're looking at them from outside the snow globe as opposed to like being a part of the scene inside the snow globe.
Yeah, where they are not having to be like, I am solely responsible whether this thing lives or dies. Yeah. It's like, oh no, there's like a step in between me and this kid. So I can like actually like look at things a little bit more romantically, I guess, in a way.
I get that for sure.
But I was not prepared for that.
Boy.
Yeah.
Okay, the like biggest thing, well, Midge goes back to Bryn Mawr for like a reunion, I guess. Yeah?
Yeah.
So she's like 32.
It was class of 53?
Yeah. And it's like 60-ish. Yes. 63. She said, let's not let it be 10 more years.
Yeah.
And you usually graduate when you're 21, 22, so that's not super important. But she goes back and she hangs out with all of her friends. And they, like, have a really good time, and it was sweet, and Midge kept on, like, kind of making faces about, like, not necessarily like she believes she's better than these women, because I don't think she does believe she's better than them, but I think she does understand that they don't have a lot in common anymore, because the rest of the women are married, and like one of them is currently pregnant in this episode, and she is like trying to keep them from bad-mouthing Joel, because she and Joel are very friendly now. And I did love during that parent-teacher conference that they both kept shifting in and out of memories of like when they first met. That was really nice, and like early in their relationship. And I like Joel is still in love with her.
Well, and she's
still in love with him too, for sure. But we also saw the first penny pan, like when they first went out for a drink and everything. And so then at the end, I mean, it's a little gross, but I thought it was really sweet that he said the same thing to Midge that he said to Penny when he was like, hey, why don't we get a drink sometime? And I just thought it was nice. And I mean, obviously, I don't, so far from what we've seen of the flash forwards, it doesn't appear that they're going to get back together, but I do love their relationship.
Me too.
I find it very fascinating. I would have loved to maybe focus more on it in season 5.
Yeah.
In the 5th and final season. So the biggest thing is that Princess Margaret is coming on the Gordon Ford show, and that whole sequence was really fun and silly. The actress playing her was fantastic, and the whole joke with the weather
which
forecast.
Midge made up.
She did, yeah.
It was her bit.
Which was super good. And then she finally met Hetty officially, which was also nice. And it was apparently due to Hetty that they got Princess Margaret.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, I think that their marriage is, he is bearding for her and she's the money.
Well, I was thinking about this when I was getting ready. When
like
she
money
said,
and influence.
Yes. Yeah. But when she said, you owe me, I think it was because of Princess Margaret. Because she did the work to bring her in, Princess and Margaret. This was Gordon. Gordon was waxing poetic about like, oh, this is our Emmy, guys. I can feel it. I can feel it. So I think that's what she meant about you owe me. Okay,
that's fair. So basically, Hetty spills the beans to Midge that she knows Susie, and I was really weirded out when Midge was just like waiting in Grand Central Station to accost Susie and say like, Hetty Ford, and like you need to use this to like get me on the show, because someone in our comments last week said that they thought Gordon was blackballing Midge from Jack Parr because he was pissed about it. I'm fine with that theory, but then this episode kind of doesn't make sense. I don't know, it's very bizarre, but basically she like forced Susie to go talk to Hetty, which again, like, Susie, you've been friends with her for 3 years. Just tell her. Also, she's pretty sure you're a lesbian already anyway.
Well, and Hetty was like, we were roommates in college, and I immediately had the vine.
We were roommates.
And they were roommates.
And they were roommates.
Oh my God, they were roommates.
I don't know. She's doing everything except waving the lesbian flag at Midge. So I don't know.
All she doesn't do is wear pink and orange.
Yeah, I don't know. And like we had all those seasons ago when Midge took Susie to a lesbian bar.
Oh yeah,
on Christopher Street. So like,
actually, I think that was just last season.
Was it
last season or season 3? But it wasn't that long ago. Yeah.
But so like, Midge knows. So I don't.
Just tell
why
her,
are we doing this?
We used to be lovers. Also, Midge can be discreet when she needs to be.
Yeah.
And that is something that I think that she would use her discretion for.
Yeah, and she would know better than to talk. She doesn't even talk about Susie in her act anyway. Yeah. So it's not like she'd be like, yeah, so my manager is super into chicks. Like, I don't know.
Because I even still think that they overreacted about the Shy Baldwin.
I agree.
Jokes in the set. So,
because it could have been misconstrued as him being a pretty boy. And like, what does a pretty boy mean? Yeah, who cares? Whatever.
So, regardless, Susie does do it. She winds up at the Gordon Ford show, and she talks to Hetty, and the power dynamic of the, like, shot is fantastic, because Hetty is halfway up the stadium seating, and already...
Just leaning.
And already Alex Borstein is so much shorter than the actress that plays Nina Arianda, and so she stays up there, and Susie stays down there, and she's like, I need you to talk to Gordon and get Midge booked on the show. And she's like, I'll do what I can. And then I don't think she needed to twist the knife at the end. When she was like, this was really hard for you, wasn't it? That's too far. That's too mean.
I don't know. At this point, I come to expect it, because everyone says the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, but
I don't
no
know.
one's saying Susie's a lesbian.
I don't know.
But the thing too is that everything about Susie's attitude and body language and literally everything is indicating that Hetty broke her heart and nobody is taking that on board. Hetty broke her heart and then went and married a man. And I think that needs to be, like, someone needs to recognize that about Susie.
Yeah.
Because I think that sucks.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I don't know. Everyone's attitude about it is just, everyone's just being stupid. Because, like, when Susie was like to Midge, this is how you want your big break? Yes, bitch. That's how it works. It's called connections.
However.
Yeah. I mean, I ask favors like that all the fucking time.
It's just networking.
The way I slide into people's DMs, I will have audacity for the rest of my life. If there's a way that I can get something done, I will do it in a way that's respectful. Because
and who in your family did you get that skill from?
Well, my mother was also the director of PR before she went insane. So I set it for failure from Jump Street.
From the beginning.
But so this is just how it's done. I don't know why, like, Midge has already eaten shit. They've already done all the things. And I don't know, Midge, I felt like was discounting Susie's contributions.
I agree.
Because she has done everything she could for Midge. Mm-hmm. And, like, just because she went to a bathhouse for James, like, that was one time out of a million for Midge.
Yeah.
But this is the one that's like, oh, then I don't, if you don't do this for me, then I'll always wonder. Or, like, basically it's like, I can't forgive you.
Yeah.
If you don't do this.
So it's like, I definitely understood Midge's side in this, because she was like, I don't want this to be a chapter of my life. Like,
she has every right. Yeah, she has every right to ask for it.
But again, it's like, also comparing herself to James is, like, not worth it, and also
apples
potentially dicey. Like, he's an actor, and it's a whole different thing. So basically, Susie does it. And then we see Hetty go talk to Gordon, and he's like, no, we have a rule. And she again brings it up that it's like, that's George's rule. You don't.
Mm-hmm. You don't even care about it. You don't even know why you have that rule anymore.
Yeah.
So
it's like, but before Gordon can go talk to Midge, she gets a phone call and immediately leaves. So I wonder if Abe is like, or if someone is sick.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. She left immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure, but that's where we ended this episode. I mean, again, yeah, you're right. It was pretty good, but I'm kind of like,
for the penultimate episode,
weird.
It's just weird placement. I don't know.
And also, if Abe is sick or something, 'cause that's the only thing I could imagine after that whole scene at the restaurant with him. It's really cutting it off at the knees, because we've already seen him well into the future.
Yeah.
On Midge's like 4th wedding day.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And Esther, when we started the season, when Esther was in therapy, she talked a lot about Abe having a huge influence in her life.
Yeah.
So I have no idea.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you.
I mean, again, mostly good. Dinah also read Susie kind of the riot act about James, because telling him it wasn't his turn yet. And so that's why she was at the train station, because she had to go to Baltimore to, like, smooth over the feathers. Just let him be on Jack Parr.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and Midge gave her blessing for it, so just let him do it.
Yeah, I agree. So, all right, well, there's one more episode left, and we will be right here for it.
Yep.
And that is it for us today. Like and subscribe, and let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.